Be sure to have a couple of dollars on hand should you want to see this one, my little strangelings. I didn't realize that the causeway across the water to the little island in the lake that houses this cemetery required a $2 toll to reach it. And indeed, the toll kiosk is an antiquated model and won't take anything but cash and does not give change. So make sure you have 2 fairly crisp $1 bills should you attempt to get to this little slice of tragic history. I have to give a big shout out to the woman behind the counter at a gift shop a couple of towns up. I told her what I was trying to do, and having only my card on me, asked if I could please buy something and get cash back. And without hearing any protest out of me, she took $2 out of her own purse, handed them to me, and told me to have a good time. My faith in the living went up a notch that day, and I left forthwith and headed right back towards the cemetery. On arrival, I found something much smaller than I expected in a residential neighborhood facing the water. When you pull up, you're at the backside of the cemetery with a small gate for access, and looking at it, and the houses of the surrounding neighborhood, you would never guess that at the time of the Civil War, this island was uninhabited, yet close enough to the Ohio northwestern shore, it was chosen to become a stockade and prison for Confederate soldiers. The Union Army wasted no time in constructing a stockade on this site that was some 16,000 square feet in size. Unfortunately, the only utilizable wood for the endeavor was freshly cut and felled trees of the island. That is to say, very green wood. This would come into play later on in a really bad way. Just stay with me for now. So, the stockade went up in record time, and Confederate prisoners of war were moved in from Camp Chase, which we covered last year in Cemetery File number 30, if you want to go back and look. Things weren't great, but they weren't awful either, until autumn came, and the weather began to cool, and then the harshness of winter slammed into the stockade. Now we get back to that green wood the stockade was built from. You see, when winter blew in off the water, the southern temperate weather acclimatized Confederates found themselves in the frozen wastes of the 9th Circle of Hell. The green wood the stockade was built from contracted and caused chinks between the boards and planks that let the northern, subarctic air rip through the confines the Confederates found themselves in, and they were not prepared. Those that didn't outright freeze to death took ill and passed from that. A cemetery was built, and over 200 souls, perhaps as many as 300, were interred, never to see their beloved southern home states ever again. When the war ended, most of their graves had been marked with wooden planks prone to rot and the scouring power of the winds and rains. By the time efforts were made to preserve this cemetery and give these men their names back, records had been poorly kept and the elements had rendered most of the grave markers unreadable. Many of these graves are marked unknown, and at least a third of the graves remained unmarked at all, but for the spirits who linger here. It is said that residents will sometimes look out their windows and catch glimpses of men dressed in Confederate gray or old-timey clothing, standing in the cemetery. Others report a heavy feeling, and a feeling of being watched while wandering near or among the graves. Lastly, concerning the Confederate statue at the mouth of the cemetery, legend has it, at night, it turns from facing south, a sign of retreat, to north, only to turn back south by morning. This cemetery was an unexpected adventure for me, and rich with history. So if should you find yourself near Johnson's Island in Ohio, on the shores of Lake Erie, make sure you have a couple of dollars to spare to come see this one. Until next time, my little strangelings, happy hauntings.